Good morning, and thank you all for joining us. And so typically in Washington, we were supposed to start at 9:30, so we've moved it already back to 9:37. I guarantee you, though, that this task force was working on time every day, trying to get the answers the American people need to have. So the task force is convened today to present the American people with the facts, what went wrong, what the Secret Service is doing to address it, and most importantly, what other changes may be necessary. So the three goals to start off with: number one, to understand what went wrong on the day of the attempted assassination. We're talking about July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. To ensure accountability and to prevent such an agency failure from ever happening again. That is a tough task because we don't know what the future holds for us. On July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then again on September 15th in West Palm Beach, Florida, President-elect Trump was the subject of two separate assassination attempts. Butler, Pennsylvania is not only within the district I represent, but it's also my hometown where I grew up and have fond memories of playing American Legion baseball on those grounds. I attended the July 13th rally with my family, my wife, one of my sons, and three of our grandchildren. The assassination attempt of President-elect that day has left its mark on our community and those that were in attendance that day. We lost Corey Competore, a volunteer firefighter who was dearly missed by many. His wife, his two daughters, woke up that day with the excitement of being able to travel to Butler, which is only a few miles away from their hometown, to experience an event that they really were looking forward to. Four people were in that car that morning. That night, only three were in the car. Mr. Competore died. Our local law enforcement agency were wrongly smeared in the media for helping with the rally security. The Secret Service zero mission failed on July 13th, and more trust in our federal agencies was lost. But the news is not all bad. After the departure of Secret Service's former director, Kimberly Cheeto, new leadership has taken responsibility for failures. Director Rowe, thank you. And has been called out the complacency in the agency. Choosing a path of cooperation in pursuit of the truth, the Secret Service made every single employee this task force requested available for interview. The Secret Service's own mission accountability review is a credible self-critique and substantially consistent with the findings of the task force. When tested again with a second assassination attempt in West Palm Beach, Florida on September 15th, the Secret Service security redundancies, while not flawless, got the job done and kept President-elect a safe distance from harm. On October 5th, President-elect Trump returned to the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania with members of his own family. The differences between the planning, coordination, and execution of this event compared to July 13th were like the difference between day and night. The task force upcoming report includes a few dozen recommendations for Secret Service and its parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, as well as Congress. In less than 5 months, the task force has conducted 46 transcribed interviews with local, state, and federal officials, participated in over a dozen briefings with relevant agencies, reviewed approximately 20,000 pages of documents, visited the site of the July 13th assassination attempt in my hometown of Butler, and the site of the September 15th assassination attempt in West Palm Beach, Florida. It also went to FBI laboratories in Quantico, Virginia, to examine the physical evidence from the July 13th attempt. This work has positioned the task force to make bipartisan determinations about exactly how the failures occurred and where the responsibility lies. At the task force hearing on September 1st, it noted three key areas of failure by Secret Service that occurred on July 13th. This included planning errors that led to confusion among local law enforcement partners, an inexplicable failure to close public access to the site where the shooter, Thomas Crooks, chose to position himself. And third, a communications and command structure that did not facilitate rapid communication. Further investigation has revealed new information shedding light on each of these failures. First, planning areas by Secret Service not only created confusion among local law enforcement partners, but also among the Secret Service agents working at the rally. In interviews with the task force, multiple agents offered uncertain and at times conflicting takes on what the duties of Secret Service personnel working in key roles for planning and execution the day the rally took place. Second, our investigation found that AGR Complex, the grounds and buildings adjacent to the rally site where the would-be assassin Thomas Crooks fired from, were not secured due to the Secret Service failure to understand and confirm key information. Interviews with Secret Service agents revealed the area was never secured because agents mistakenly believed that state and local officials planned to secure it. Secret Service never verified this charge before or during the rally. Third, communications, and I think this is really the most important. Communications and intelligence failures occurred in numerous ways, ranging from a flawed setup, agents failing to speak up about problems they observed, training issues, inadequate resources, and not having the ability to communicate with one another in the moment of the crisis. After much investigation, we found no any evidence or testimony suggesting that any Secret Service in proximity to President Trump at the rally, who might have been in a position to get him off the stage, knew there was a suspicious or armed person on a rooftop until after shots were fired. In the course of our investigation, some interviews with Secret Service personnel included expressions of regret, while others took defiant stances blaming colleagues for their failures. Several Secret Service agents interviewed by the task force have either already left the agency or have been placed on a status called situational telework, where they are not allowed to contribute to the core duty of protection. Those agents have been left in flux, waiting to see if these fundamental leadership failures will ultimately lead to the end of their careers. It's not in our nation's or anyone's interest for the Secret Service to delay accountability decisions any longer. I strongly encourage Director Rowe to review the task force final report and act to hold those individuals responsible for the failure accountable in a way that enables the Secret Service to move forward. We are no longer under the illusion that there is still work to do in fixing these problems with the Secret Service. Every 4 years, those campaigning for our nation's highest office reach out across America to connect with the public and ask for their support. This is a fundamental principle of our democracy. On top of being responsible for protecting our nation's highest ranking officials, their families and foreign dignitaries, the candidates running for office. This greatly increases their optional tempo and pushes the resources to a limit. Today, we will discuss the lessons learned from this past campaign cycle and underscore what needs to happen moving forward. I want to thank Acting Director Rowe for being here today. And now I yield to Ranking Member Crow for his opening comments.
Good morning. I would like to thank the chairman and the members of this task force, and perhaps most importantly, the bipartisan staff for their incredible hard work over the last 5 months. I would also like to thank Acting Director Rowe for joining us here today for this important hearing. Political violence has no place in this country, and that is why the bipartisan work of this task force has been so critical. On July 24th, just days after the attempt on Donald Trump's life, the House of Representatives unanimously passed a resolution establishing this task force. Our mandate has been to investigate the facts and circumstances leading up to the assassination attempts in Butler, Pennsylvania and West Palm Beach, Florida, to understand how these attacks happened and how to prevent a similar incident from ever happening again. But we also had another mandate, another unofficial mandate, and that was to come together as Democrats and Republicans and to show the nation that we can undertake the work of conducting an investigation, of uncovering the truth, and submitting a bipartisan report telling that story. And that is what we have done. In less than 5 months, the task force has done an outstanding amount of work to accomplish its mission. We received numerous briefings with federal agencies, including the Secret Service, the FBI, and ATF, visited the site of the first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the site of the second attempt in West Palm Beach, Florida, held 46 transcribed interviews with federal, state, and local law enforcement officials, reviewed more than 18,000 pages of documents in response to requests for information to federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, published an initial interim report laying out the task force's initial findings to ensure the American people remained updated on our work, held a public hearing with local and state law enforcement officials and former Secret Service agent who provided additional understanding of what went wrong in Butler. We visited the FBI laboratory in Quantico, Virginia to review evidence from July 13th, and today we are holding our final hearing with Secret Service Acting Director Rowe, which will be immediately followed by a business meeting to approve our final report. Although we received more cooperation from some federal agencies than others, we have been able to firmly establish the facts leading up to and on the days of both assassination attempts, and to make recommendations that will help prevent a tragedy like the one in Butler from happening again. We have also critically worked in an overwhelmingly bipartisan manner to ensure that the American people have the answers they deserve. I am proud of this process and the work that we have done. Again, I would like to thank the members of this task force for their diligence, cooperation, and dedication to stopping political violence in the United States in its tracks. I look forward to a productive conversation today with Acting Director Rowe about what the Secret Service and Congress can continue to do to protect our nation's most senior leaders. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. I do. I want to just take a moment before we ask the director to swear in. I think when we look at what we were able to do, 13 members of Congress, right? 7 Republicans and 6 Democrats. We never identified as what our politics were about or what party we belonged to. What we identified as a group that was going to try to find and get the answers to restore the faith and trust and confidence that the American people have to have, not only in this institution, but us. And the other thing is, you've already mentioned it, 30 staff members have worked tirelessly since that creation. And while we weren't able to be here because we're in primaries and we're in general elections and we're running all over the country, they never left. They stayed and they did all the work. So I can't tell you how proud I am of this group. They're the ones that should get all the credit. We get the chance to sit here. We'll take the blame, but I think I'd rather take the blame and give others the credit for the success. So let's go ahead and move forward. But I want to thank the staff, everybody that's here today. You guys did one heck of a job. Thank you for your dedication. Now we're going to introduce our witness. Today we are joined by Mr. Ronald Rowe, Jr., Acting Director, U.S. Secret Service. Director, we appreciate you being here today. Now, will you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witness answered in the affirmative. I now recognize Mr. Rowe for his 5-minute opening remarks. Director, I think we've talked about this. We're going to be flexible on the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Chairman Kelly, Ranking Member Crowe, and distinguished members of the task force. I appreciate the efforts of this task force, and I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. July 13th was a failure of the Secret Service to adequately secure the Butler Farm Show site and protect President-elect Trump. That abject failure underscored critical gaps in Secret Service operations, and I recognize that we did not meet the expectations of the American public, Congress, and our protectees. And they rightly have that idea based on how we performed. President-elect Trump was wounded. A cowardly and despicable act killed 1 person and critically injured 2 others. And I join you and all Americans in condemning the horrific assault on President-elect Trump, Corey Comparator, James Copenhaver, and David Dutch. And I extend my deepest sympathies to the Comparator family.